What is up, everybody? Welcome into it. This is the Volquest Mailbag Podcast, each and every Thursday here at Volquest.com, and as always on the Volquest YouTube page. Please like this video. You know the drill. Subscribe to the channel. Help us grow this channel. Therefore, we can get this video out there in front of more and more Tennessee fans. But as always, find our work, follow our work through Tennessee and the NCAA tournament, and much more at Volquest.com. This Volquest podcast is brought to you by Exterior Home Solutions. Can't thank them enough for making this possible. For a free estimate, give them a call today at 865-524-5888. That is 865-524-5888 for Exterior Home Solutions, the proud title sponsor of the Volquest podcast. We've got a lot to get into here today. We're going to kick off with some basketball questions because, of course, Tennessee and Louisiana, it's coming up tonight, the late game, 9:40 Eastern Time, televised on CBS. We've got Grant Ramey and Rob Lewis down on location in Orlando. They're going to be bringing you coverage for Tennessee throughout the NCAA tournament all weekend long, and so you want to stay dialed into the front page at Volquest.com and on the General's Quarters. We'll go ahead and get into the questions here. We'll start off with Josiah. Would you be more surprised if I said the Vol basketball team made it to the Final Four or the Vol baseball team made it to Omaha? Rob, if you want to lead this one off right here.
I'll go basketball.
Yeah, 1,000% basketball. I don't know. Just winning game after game after game in this tournament is so hard. Winning one game in this tournament is hard enough. Winning two games together the first weekend is hard enough. And then you move on the next week. And for this team, where it's been the last 6 weeks, the struggles it's had now without Zakai, and obviously, just the way they've been playing, obviously it's a steep hill to climb. So I would be way more surprised with a Final Four run than Omaha, which I don't know, Tennessee's the number 2 team in the country in baseball, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yep. Number 2 team in the country, top 4 team in all the 17 different polls there are. And, it's difficult to obviously do either, but Tennessee does have pitching. So I would side with Tennessee baseball right now. But that's a good question from Josiah. We'll go to Athron. Where does Barnes go to find a second true point guard for this team next season, Rob Lewis?
Can you repeat that, EC? You broke up a little on me.
Yeah, where does Rick Barnes go to find another point guard, a true point guard for this team next year?
I think they'll be looking for portal help, point guard wise. But if not, obviously Zakai's rehab is going to be a huge, huge deal. You hope that BJ Edwards has a great summer. And I would just, people that are ready to write off BJ Edwards, I would just ask you, what was Jemai Mashak doing for this program, a year ago? I'm not saying BJ is going to do that, but to make a beat between your freshman and sophomore year is not just some, astronomical feat. It happens all the time, and it happens a lot in this program. So, but I think they'll kick the tires on some guys in the portal 100%. But you got Zakai, obviously, you hope he gets well. Freddie DeLeon can handle the ball. He is definitely not a pure guard, but the times that I have seen him play, in the summer with his travel team, he's always been his team's primary ball handler. He's very comfortable in that role, so he can do some of that for you. And I don't think you want to ask him to do that full time as a freshman, but I would think between right now it's him, it's Zakai, BJ, and Freddie as your primary ball handlers, and I think they'll look for, like I said, a transfer, but I wouldn't just guarantee they're going to bring in a transfer point.
Grant, would you add anything different?
No, I think portal's the emphasis. I agree with what Rob said. BJ Edwards is a freshman. He'll probably be fine. He's going to, he's looked like a freshman a lot this season. That's just part of it. Some guys are a little bit slower than others in terms of how rapidly they, ascend and make an impact. If he sticks around, I'm sure he'll be fine moving forward. But yeah, you need something out of the portal. Zakai, you like Rob said, you hope he's healthy come October, November, he's ready to go. But at the same time, even if he is healthy, you still need somebody else. And I think you also go to Santi and, make sure he's 100% gone or coming back. If he's coming back, you have that conversation as well. If he's legitimately thinking about that or not, kick those tires and then go to the portal and see what you can find.
This is something we discussed on Tuesday's podcast and a little bit earlier this week. Grant, I want to start with you here. CN31, am I crazy for hoping Duke is our second-round matchup over Oral Roberts? Or seems like it would be a Cinderella type, beating a Barnes team if it's Oral Roberts. Duke would be the type of matchup that motivates our guys, especially with everyone picking Duke to win.
For sure, and you just look at what this program's ran up against since 2018, an 11 seed, a 12 seed, an 11 seed in terms of getting eliminated in the NCAA tournament with Loyola. then Oregon State in the COVID bubble, and then Michigan a year ago. So, yeah, there's something about those higher seeds, double-digit seeds, that for whatever reason have given Tennessee troubles. I don't know Duke and Oral Roberts if there's a good answer there. I think both teams would be extremely tough, and it's hard to win the second day of the tournament. But I don't think it's crazy for people to say they would be comfortable with Duke just as much as they would be Oral Roberts because, Duke has been very human this season at times.
Yeah, and I would just add, granted, the impression I got today from talking to guys, especially in the locker room off the podium, was that they're coming in with a chip on their shoulder. I mean, they feel, they've seen everybody, pick them as a popular upset pick. They know they didn't finish strong. And Jemai Meshack used the phrase today, we feel like we're underdogs. We feel like we have a lot to prove. We feel like, Zakai got hurt. We struggled down the stretch in February. People have written us off a little bit. So I don't think that they will have a problem getting up for Oral Roberts if that's who if they win Thursday and that's who they play Saturday.
And I think you want that. I mean, this team, you're better off going into this tournament being doubted and Seth Davis saying Louisiana's going to advance, 10 minutes after the bracket was released Sunday evening. I mean, obviously that probably got some people's attention because they were watching the selection show just like everybody else was. I think you want that pressure-free. Everybody's written you off. Nobody expects you to do anything instead of going in this tournament fresh off an SEC tournament title and, you're 15-2 over your last 17 like they were last year. I would rather have that underdog chip on the shoulder. Nobody believes in us. Nobody thinks we can do anything. Nobody thinks we can advance because when the pressure's off, you just go out and play ball.
Let's go to iHeart Vols. If you could pick one current player to return for one more season, who would it be between Josiah, Santi, or Julian? He goes on to say, mine would be Julian. With full offseason in the program, I believe he could be special, whereas Santi and Josiah maybe have hit their ceilings. Rob Lewis.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really good question. I mean, I'd have to think about it, but I would probably go Julian. I would, just because I think with his talent, if he really did have a full off season, was really going into year number 2, I think he could be a monster next year. But I don't think there's a wrong answer there. I think Rick Barnes would welcome any of that trio back with open arms.
I mean, if this is Santi's ceiling, it's a pretty good ceiling. And I would want that ceiling for another full season. I think he's played really well the last 3-4 weeks, however long it's been that he's been shooting a little bit better than he was earlier in the season. I think I would take him back. Yeah, you're right. Julian would be a monster if they could get him to aggressively attack consistently. And he had another year in the program. He was another year older, more experienced, stronger, all that stuff. But at the same time, you need shooting on next year's team. You need a guy like we were just talking about that can handle the ball a little bit. They would be looking for that portal point guard that could help them. I think if you could get Santi, that would be a really good option because he's shot it really well this season. The last few weeks, he shot it. He made 102 threes last year. So and nobody else has done that except Chris Lofton. So if you could get that kind of player back, I would go with him.
Well, let's go to Sam Smith. Assuming Tennessee gets by the Ragin' Cajuns, what are some of those potential matchup problems with Duke and Oral Roberts? Grant, I know we've kind of talked about this a little bit this week, but individually, to your knowledge, some of those matches where Tennessee might be on the losing end if playing Duke or if playing Oral Roberts.
I mean, you're going from a Jordan Brown with Louisiana, the guy that everybody's been talking about for the last few weeks, to Kyle Flipkowski with Duke. And he's got similar numbers, and he's been playing just as well as anybody in the country the last few weeks to kind of lift Duke up from what we've seen earlier in the year. And then Oral Roberts, everybody talks about Max Davis. I mean, this is a guards game, especially this time of year. This is where guards take over. He's been here before, like we've talked about this week. He's done it before. He's led a 15-seed Oral Roberts to the Sweet 16. Now they're at 12 with their 30-something wins, 31-3, whatever it is. Also, they have Connor Vanover, the kid from Arkansas, who I saw on the court today is just insanely tall human being. It doesn't make sense that you can be that tall. So I think Max and Kyle are the two guys that you look at first and foremost, because if Oral Roberts does beat Duke and they get the second round, they're going to be more confident than they've ever been because they just went through Duke to get there. And if Duke is the next team you're playing, obviously their confidence is pretty high because they've been playing so well. Wouldn't just coming off an ACC tournament title.
Guys, you're down there in Orlando. Of course, game time's coming up tonight. It's at 9:40. Media coverage. You've seen some practice. Rob, any big takeaways from the Vols down in Orlando here before tip-off tonight?
No, just what I mentioned a minute ago. I mean, they seem like they are here with something to prove. I mean, they're not cocky. They're not. It does not remotely feel like they're taking Louisiana for granted. I just, I feel like these guys are hungry. I feel like they, don't feel like they finished the season strong. They don't feel like they've represented. They don't feel like they put the best version of themselves out there. I don't think, for several weeks, and I think they're ready to seize a chance to kind of rewrite the narrative of how fans are going to remember this year. Now, whether they do that or not remains to be seen. But mindset wise, mentality wise, I think the guys are really focused, and I kind of like, their mindset as they head into this.
And Rick has said it a couple times. This is the restart button. This is kind of where you wipe the slate clean, and whatever you can do from here. It doesn't matter what you did to get here. It matters about what you do to stay alive in this thing. And Rick's talked about confidence, and Rick's talked a couple times about you don't really want to change anything this time of year and send that bad signal to your team. You want to do basically what you've done to get yourself here. I think this has been the number one ranked defense in college basketball for almost 3 months, over 3 months. I think they're number 2 now, but you can play good defense. They can hit shots. They've hit shots the last few games. They've scored enough to win it in the last few games now. Just get back to playing defense and getting enough stops to stay alive in this thing.
Grant Ramey and Rob Lewis down in Orlando, Florida, covering Tennessee in the first 2 rounds of the NCAA tournament. Tonight, there'll be the 4th seed and 13th seed going at it, Tennessee, Louisiana on CBS, 9:40 tip. If Tennessee were to win, it will advance on and play either Duke or Oral Roberts on Saturday. We got all the coverage for Tennessee basketball at Volquest.com. Stay up to date. They've got plenty of coverage there, and we'll have the Craven Wings full court press, 4 quick takes, everything Rick Barnes said, all that and more. That's on the website tonight at Volquest.com. All right, guys, we're talking basketball, March Madness here on the Volquest podcast. We know Tennessee's in action later tonight. Start brewing up that coffee, am I right? But March Madness, it's officially begun, and it's time for you to shoot your shot and score big with the nonstop action over at MyBookie. Whether you're filling out multiple brackets, betting on an eventual national championship winner, or simply looking for player props or game props, MyBookie has you covered. Getting started with MyBookie is super easy. Visit the website online, make your first deposit, and use the promo code VOLQUEST to claim exclusive deposit bonus. That's VOLQUEST, 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 to claim some extra money on top of your initial deposit. With hundreds of thousands in prizes for March Madness and weekly blackjack tournaments, you can turn your game day into a payday. Over at MyBookie, bet anything, anytime, anywhere, with MyBookie. So special thanks to MyBookie, and of course, as always, a special thanks to the title sponsor of the Volquest podcast, that is Exterior Home Solutions.
Life happens, and damage to your home can be extremely stressful. That's why it's important to find someone who offers efficient, quality work with financing options. Exterior Home Solutions, they value not only family, but community, and they're who I call when life happens, and you should too.
All right, let's talk some football, spring practice. Let's talk some recruiting here on the second part of the Volquest Mailbag podcast. Appreciate you guys, as always, for being here. Shout out Exterior Home Solutions. Shout out all you guys. Subscribe to the channel on YouTube, and always check out the coverage at Volquest.com. $29.99. You can be a member of our family on the General's Quarters, and the best content out there for Tennessee athletics, that is Volquest.com. Matt Ray, let's go ahead and get started here. Let's talk a little football with spring practice beginning next week. Austin Price and Brent Hubbs. Yeah, I can't forget that guy. We'll be back on the podcast and be back from vacation next week. But we'll go to Football Fan 09. Is Squirrel White capable of doing what Hyatt did last year? 1,000 yards, 10-plus touchdowns. Basically, in our opinion, how does Squirrel's talent level compare to Hyatt's or even Velus Jones? Matt, if you want to start here.
1,000 yards and 10-plus touchdowns, that's a chore for anybody. I mean, at the end of the day, this Tennessee offense is receiver-friendly, and they're going to get, Squirrel in favorable mismatches and allow him to, have the chance to do that. Do I think he does that? I think 1,000 yards is maybe possible. I don't know about 10 touchdowns. That's the number for me. 1,000 yards, possible. 10 touchdowns, that's so tough to do. And you look at what Jalen Hyatt did this past season, it was phenomenal. But he put up 5 in one game. Let's not forget that. But I mean, Squirrel White talent level wise, I think he does a lot of things well. He's continued to, mature his body. I think he's different in skill set from both of those guys. I think the quick twitch that he has and the short area quickness is something that sets him apart. They all have something that they do different. They're all fast, and that speed pops right away. But I think they're all different in that aspect. Velus Jones is fast, but he's got the ability to break more tackles than the other two. Jalen Hyatt's long speed I think is something that sets him apart. And then Squirrel White, I think, again, go back to that short area quickness, what he can do, stemming off routes and working on different stacks. I think they all line up and have a chance to be very successful along the rest of their careers, Hyatt and Valus in the pros and Squirrel working through his time at Tennessee. But I don't know how you can really compare the three of them because they are different in a lot of ways, even though they'll get used similarly in Tennessee's offense.
It's a really good point. Yeah, I mean, they're all fast, but I mean, they're all different players. Valus, as you pointed out, he's a running back he's a running back's body with wide receiver speed, right?
Yep.
And he can fly. And so they could use him in the screen game and in the tunnels and in the bubbles, and they could do 5-yard ins and outs and slants and stuff, and allow him to catch underneath and go break some tackles. Jalen Hyatt was let's beat you over the top, and I think he can do more than what he did at Tennessee, but I mean, hell, it works so well, right? To keep throwing it to him. And Squirrel, I think, is just kind of unique in his own right. He's super, as you pointed out, quick twitch. He's fast, of course. His toughness is unparalleled, I believe, and I think that's something that's going to continue to get him tested throughout his career because, again, he is so small. But I'll say this. When you work with that slot and that wide receiver to the top, Valus and Cedric, Jalen Hyatt and Brew McCoy and or Ramel Keaton this past year, good things are going to happen. And so there will be, in my opinion, a 1,000-yard receiver for Tennessee this year. I don't know if it's Brew. I don't know if it's going to be Thornton, Ramel Keaton. I don't know if it's going to be Squirrel White. But there's been 2 in 2 years, so I'll go ahead and bet some money that it's going to happen again in 2023. Let's go to Bassmaster. Who is the best player in the state of Tennessee for the class of 2024? Do we think we sweep our top targets in state, Matt Ray?
Man, we've talked about that on the board for a little while now, who the top 3 guys are. And it's so hard to pick and choose between this group of guys right now. Because, I mean, when you look at what they did in their junior season, you don't want to leave somebody out. Caleb Beasley, a phenomenal junior season. Edwin Spillman, I thought he had a really good junior season. Both those guys have a spot in the conversation. Boo Carter, again, everything he put on tape on Friday night, he's in the conversation. Marcus Gorey, who I felt for the longest time was the forgotten guy in the state, is continue to see his rankings rise. And then Amari Jefferson, he's the guy that nobody can get enough of right now. Everybody's recruiting Amari Jefferson hard. Kamaro Brown's hanging around. I think at the end of the day, if I'm picking one, and I don't think I could do it fairly, I think right now for me, I'd take Amari Jefferson.
Okay.
I think he did a lot of things really well. I think it's so tough. It's so tough to pick between that core group of guys. Caleb Beasley, Amari Jefferson, Marcus Gorey are all right there neck and neck for me, in my opinion. But then you don't want to slot the other guys either. They did a lot of things well. But Amari Jefferson did so many things well, continuing to develop his game, did it at the highest level possible in the state. So, I think that probably carries some weight if you're just trying to pick, help Baylor to a state championship. So a lot of things working in his favor, but a lot of things working in all those guys' favor. And then as far as cleaning up on the top targets, Tennessee is, they're in good shape with all those guys, that I've mentioned so far. Ronan O'Connell, an in-state guy that Tennessee continuing to work. Jesse Perry, another guy. So, Tennessee's in a good spot in-state right now. It's a good in-state crop, and the Vols are doing a good job there. We'll see if they clean up, if they clean sweep, what happens. Some guys tend to surprise you. I've been surprised in-state when guys leave. I've been surprised when guys leave the state of North Carolina or guys leave the state of Georgia. It just happens. But Tennessee's in a good spot with those guys right now.
And again, a name that maybe I miss you say it, but a name that's been around for a long, long time that I think we forget about just because we think it's a slam dunk. Tennessee's still in great position with him, but Edwin Spillman.
Yeah, absolutely. Tennessee's still in great position with Edwin Spillman, but he's a guy that he's maintained for a little while. That he wants to see some places. Kind of reminds me of Caleb Herring. Last go around, Caleb Herring checked a couple of places off of his box. This last weekend was Pylon in Atlanta. And this time last year, Caleb got that offer from Georgia. So, added a little bit more leading into his commitment. I think Florida State's really trying to get Edwin Spillman to pause and take a deeper look at them. Ohio State's still a school that I think he'll check out. So we'll see what comes of that. But Tennessee's still in a great spot there.
All right, I'm going to answer the second part of Sam Smith's question. He had a basketball question earlier in the show, but wants to know about baseball. Missouri starting pitching isn't great. ERAs are not terrible, though. But the bullpen has been pretty good with the ERA. What are some things you're most looking forward to and seeing on SEC opening weekend? Yeah, I mean, from a Tennessee perspective, of course, you want to see my biggest thing, and this is stuff I've talked about and stuff I've written about a little bit. I want to see what those bullpen arms look like, series in, series out in SEC play. To this point, I'll speak a little bit more about this on the Porch podcast. By the way, if you haven't checked that out, you're a Tennessee baseball fan and you're a fan of Luke Lipsius, check out the Porch every Thursday here at Volquest.com. Luke is fantastic. But anyway, a little shameless plug there. I want to see, for the longest time, it's just been got to get this guy working, got to get this guy working, got to get this guy working. Okay. And you've been challenged a few times, but, for the most part, non-conferences, just that. You're going to be challenged every single weekend now. And so which arms are you going to put in position to go and help you win games? And I'm so intrigued to see, where Camden is, made a season debut, that being Camden Sewell, where he is this weekend. We know what Kirby Connell is going to give you. Seth Halverson can do so many different things. Same with Andrew Lindsay. There's a couple guys I'm even missing out right now. So I'm intrigued to see that bullpen. Of course, intrigued to see Drawling and Tears if they stay in the lineup. Boy, it sounded like on Tuesday night that Tony Vitello was saying, hey, Drawling's going to be in that lineup some way. I feel like he's a bat that needs to be in there more than not. And so I think both those guys deserve to continue to hit in this lineup. And again, it all started when Matt Ray covered the team last Friday. So you have him to thank for that.
Yeah, I'll tell you what else started working last Friday. Maui's bat.
Yeah.
My goodness, it's red hot right now.
4 home runs since Friday night, man. Yeah. He's already 17 RBIs on the season. He's going to be just fine. I'll tell you that.
It's continued. The trend has continued since I stopped coverage, though. Yeah. So we're gonna roll with that.
Let's go to Nashville 615. Question on the offensive line development: is it a better strategy to backfill from the transfer portal every year than unknowns from high school? We'll probably be starting 3 transfers, and none of the project or O-line recruits seem to have a ton of promise. Again, Matt, I feel like transfer portal for the offensive line for any position is a plug and gap, like go and help supplement and everything. But man, you want to evaluate right. You want to get those guys on campus, and the offensive line in particular, they're not all Darnell Wrights and Wanya Morrises. You got to strength, conditioning, nutrition to get them where they need to be. And sometimes it's a couple-year project.
Yeah, and I mean, I think when you look even at the transfer portal, and you touched on it right there, the ability to get them on campus and evaluate, there were some guys, this cycle around that Tennessee didn't push for from the transfer portal that I think people thought that they might if you were on the outside looking in. And it's trust in that evaluation, right? And I think it's the same thing with the high school kids. I mean, I think if you look at Brian Grant, for example, when you talk more of a guy that's a project coming in, 1 year of football, basketball background, very athletic. But when he came to campus, he looked more like a defensive end than an offensive tackle. He started to fill out, but I don't think Tennessee expected that to be a 1 year turnaround. He's a guy that I think you get to year 2, and if you need him in a pinch, maybe you can rely on him in a pinch. And then year 3, you hope you're starting to see more of that refined product. So I think right now for Tennessee, yeah, you do hope that you've had success with these transfer portal guys. But again, I think Glenn Ellerby's done a pretty good job there and doesn't get quite enough credit over time. I mean, when Tennessee offered Jeremiah Crawford and then took him, I don't think anybody thought he would give you the reps that he gave you last year. And he was valuable to Tennessee down the stretch. Gerald Mincy, obviously that worked out for Tennessee when he was healthy. He was pretty productive. And we'll see what they get from Andrich Keurig and John Campbell this fall. But there's a chance that those guys are big-time contributors. And, there's a chance that you're going to see guys that, enter that transfer portal that pass these high school guys up no matter what the development is. I mean, when you look at John Campbell, who had him leaving Miami? He was a starter. And I mean, he was a starter, and they have everything in place that you would think that he would be looking for there. Mario Cristobal, Alex Mirabal, both of those guys are fantastic developers, but a chance to come to the SEC and play, winning football, I think, was important to him in his process. So you're able to land a guy like that I don't, think, maybe that's not always going to be there. But, in Tennessee circumstances, I think they've been able to fill, some of those gaps. Like you said, in the transfer portal, is it always going to work? Probably not. And I think that's one of those things that you have to rely on development on with guys like Brian Grant.
Let's go to Athrun. Got a couple questions here. Seeing a lot of interest from some articles lately, some of the stuff we publish, UNAP, about tight ends. Early opinions on Elm, at least being able to keep the attention of these ties with Golish leaving.
Yeah, I think Tennessee has cast a little bit wider net at that position. We've talked about that a good bit, a lot of positions actually. But at tight end, that first couple of days, Alec Abone was able to get on the phone and have genuine conversations. Guys say, look, this is where I'm at. We're taking over. This is what I'm bringing to the position, and I think that's resonated with some guys. I think they have the attention of Dylan Hipp. I think they still have the attention of Jaden Riddell. He's going to be here April 1st. His 7-on-7 team's going to be out here. He's going to, see campus on April 1st. You've got Caleb Odom, who's set to be here later in March or the 1st of April. You've still got Jonathan Eccles committed. We'll see where that goes. But right now, Jonathan Eccles is still committed to Tennessee. Tennessee is casting a wider net at that position. And I think, again, one of the things working for Alec Abone is the relatability. He's a younger guy. We saw it with Kelsey Pope. He was a younger guy, high energy, related inside of, Josh Heupel's system and program, and understands the message that they've been selling recruits and seeing guys ahead of him be successful in doing so. So I think it is kind of a seamless transition. Obviously, there's unknowns there, but I think Alec Abone has the interest of a lot of guys at that position right now.
It is such an important position in Tennessee's offense. We know that, and Tennessee is so thin right now. That's something that we'll have to continue to look at the transfer portal with this new window, and of course next year as well as recruiting guys out of high school. Athrun also wants to know, think it is 1 versus 2 when UT meets LSU in baseball? It's a good chance. I'll say Tennessee's got the easier path, if you want to call it that, to the LSU series. That's going to be at LSU March 30th, 31st, and then April 1st. Tennessee, of course, is at Missouri, a very winnable series for Tennessee this weekend. We'll be back home to take on Texas A&M. That will be a challenge, a ranked ball club. LSU has Texas A&M in College Station this weekend, and then at home against Arkansas before Tennessee. You talk about that stretch. A series against A&M, series against Arkansas, and then a series against Tennessee, your first 3 weekend series of the season. That is tough for LSU, but they're good. I think Tennessee's good. We'll find out how good in SEC play, but I think there's a really good chance that could be 1 versus 2 here in a couple of weeks. And then lastly here, I've seen, lastly from Athrun, said I've seen comments throughout his recruitment that Nico is slight of frame and such. I've also seen you mention, I don't know if he's talking about you or AP, that he is bigger than people think. What is the optimal weight the coaches would like to see him at? Matt, he's a guy that is tall, but boy, there is a lot. His frame allows him to put on some good weight, and he will.
Yeah, I think he will. I don't know what that optimal number is. Even ask anybody what that would be. But I think if you look at some of the recent photos that he's posted and everything like that, and we'll see him again, on Monday and have a chance to get a look at him and see where he's at. I think he's already put on some weight. You can see it in his lower half. He's a guy. He is bigger than I think people give him credit for. When you get up next to him, he is bigger than he looks. He's obviously got room to fill out. He looks skinnier than he is, and he needs to add weight. I'm not suggesting that, but I think he is very capable of doing so. For me, I would say, Eric, I'd say 225, 230.
Yeah, I think so too. Again, he's a tall guy, and he's super thin right now, but as you pointed out, it looks like he's already taken advantage of some of that being on campus here this first semester. But he's got a lot of room, and Tennessee's going to try to put it on him for sure. Vol Fanatic wants to know the bigger impact, I guess, in 2023. Didn't specify. We'll say for 2023, Joshua Josephs or Caleb Herring. If it's 2023, I guess you can make it your own because it didn't specify. If it's 2023, I think it's a slam dunk. It'll be Joshua Josephs. we've been asked before, who's going to have the bigger impact next year, Josephs or Pierce. That's a good discussion. Pierce is having a good winter workout session, be a big spring for him. But in terms of Josephs and Herring for next season, everything's going to be new for Herring. Josephs played last year, of course, and that's fine. You can do it as a true freshman, but I think a year in the system, a little bit more polished, I would go Josephs in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going 2023, it's definitely Josephs. I think that's probably a slam dunk. Mm-hmm. But overall, I'm very intrigued with Caleb Herring. He is so long and so naturally bendy and can do some things in pass coverage that I don't know. I don't know that Josephs is as fluid probably in pass coverage. Not that either one of those guys are going to be dropping back into coverage a ton, but when you can throw that 6'5", 6'6" guy back there with that wingspan, boy, you can disrupt some things. We've seen it over the years in SEC play. So I'm interested to see the development of Caleb Herring inside the program. But this year, Josh Josephs.
Yeah, and a note on Josephs, I mean, you remember this, covering him in high school and his recruitment and everything. I believe it was his junior year where he played, I think, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, they might have switched up their defense a little bit. I believe his junior year, he played a traditional outside linebacker on a 4-3, and he was out of the box a ton. So, Again, he's got experience doing that, but, in the Leo position, you're not going to do a ton at Tennessee, but you will do it some. I got two more here. Let's go to Greenville SC Vol. Clemson seems to be copying our past-paced style of offense since they will be in the new system. How long will it take them to perfect it like we do? Hype's been doing this for a while. I don't think that they're going to do exactly what Josh Heupel's doing. I don't think anybody in the country is doing exactly what Josh Heupel's doing. Of course, Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss has run a variation of it. Jeff Levy's done it. Of course, that's, from the Heupel tree. I don't think Clemson or anybody is doing exactly what Tennessee's doing. But in terms of pacing the play, you're seeing some teams, Clemson included, speeding some things up here as we venture on into this new age of football where offense is dominating.
Yeah, and it's interesting too. I mean, like you mentioned, some folks are doing it, and tempo's been a thing for a while now. I mean, when you look at it, but to this extent, what Tennessee does with tempo, the ability to call those plays in seamlessly, what Josh Heupel does from down to down. If you're ever down on the field, or take a 3-play window for Tennessee that not resulting in touchdowns, and watch Josh Heupel and how I think that's so interesting. And not that the other head coaches aren't doing that, but he does a lot from snap to snap, counting off, doing different things. Their signaling system, I think, is unique. And then the spacing of their offense, to be able to space as efficiently and effectively as they do and move formations and give defensive different looks at that pace, I don't think anybody can replicate it right now. Will they be able to over time? Maybe. But right now it's pretty tough. And Ole Miss, Lane's offense is efficient. Lincoln Riley, they don't go nearly as fast out there, but they do play at a tempo and they do things efficiently. But it's tough to do what Tennessee does. And, I go back to Josh Heupel's opening press conference. I was always pretty amazed that he felt like they would go into, the summer with that offense installed after watching it at UCF. I was just always like, there's no way. There's no way. But, I mean, they were able to. They came out efficiently and were able to do that. And I think it's continued to evolve over time.
Yeah, just learning things in that first spring practice. Like I remember sitting in some media availabilities, and I forgot who said it, but just simple things like in this offense, when a receiver catches a football, you get up, you sprint, and you give it to the line judge or to the official who spots the ball, and then you get your butt back in gear. Just learning that type of stuff coming from a more traditional pro style offense to this offense just takes some time. But
you don't throw the ball because he might drop it.
Yeah.
And like you're losing time if that happens. That's all.
Yeah. But I thought Josh Heupel's offense didn't run the football. Again, that's the biggest misconception in all of college football, in my opinion. Also, you pointed out the splits. The splits are the thing that gets this offense going. And when we talked with Jalen High in the replay a couple weeks ago, he was kind of talking about that as well. The splits are everything, as are the tight ends and a quarterback that can process information. Not everybody's got a Hendon Hooker.
Yeah.
Hendon Hooker made this thing go. We'll see if Joe Milton, what his variation of it is next season. Last thing we got here on the mailbag, and this is a recruiting question. It's kind of a loaded one, Corrington Vol, but Matt, we'll see if we can blow through and give like the top target uncommitted anywhere. Who's our true number one targets at their respective positions? Just kind of go through work that Tennessee's trying to get from each position group.
Right now, quarterback Jake Merklinger, running back. If you're going true top, Jarrett Gibson. I think he's the top of that board. You're battling for so many other guys that you're in on that. God, it's just hard to give that true top because I don't want to feel like I'm slotting Peyton Lewis, Braylon Russell, those type of guys. Wide receiver, my goodness.
Ron Wingo and others.
Ron Wingo, Mike Matthew, and others. Tight end, you've got Jonathan Eccles committed, Jaden Riddell. Offensive line, I couldn't give you a true top there right now. I think those guys are interchangeable. Defensive line, Camarion Franklin, Williams, Winery. At the edge, there's, again, those guys are interchangeable. Multiple guys come to mind there. Defensive back, you've already got a bulk of those guys committed, still involved with Iffy, Idris Farouk. Obviously, the uncommitted guys, Boo Carter, linebacker, Edwin Spillman, Sammy Brown, Peyton Pierce. Those type of guys are guys you want to get back to campus as much as you can. What positions am I leaving out here? Man, that's a lot.
No, I mean, you kind of went through it a little bit.
I mean, I can probably highlight some more in list form for you if you send me a DM and I'll highlight some more. It's tough just going try to go through each one because I think a lot of these guys right now, you're still in the evaluation process. Mm-hmm. And a lot of these guys are, if they called Tennessee today and said, hey, I want in, I think they could get in.
Yeah. And again, a lot of these priorities in terms of, 1, 2, 3 at each position can change over the course of a couple of months too. That's part of that.
Yeah, I think running back's a position that's going to change.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's all part of that evaluation period. How about that? Just blowing through that question, Matt. You're good at what you do, brother. All right. Appreciate it, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in here to the Volquest Mailbag Podcast. A lot of good questions this week. Tennessee recruiting never stops. Spring practice starts on Monday. Going to have full coverage, Volquest.com. We've done a great job of, Brett and Austin putting out a lot of content this week of kind of getting you ready, position previews, newcomers, returners to watch, all that type of stuff. And, of course, Tennessee basketball in the NCAA tournament. Get your coffee ready. Late tip-off tonight, 9:40 Eastern time on CBS. Excuse me. It's Tennessee, the 4th seed, against Louisiana, the 13th seed. The winner will take on either the 5th seed Duke or the 12th seed Oral Roberts. So plenty of coverage on the front page today, all throughout the night, talking about Tennessee basketball and whatever happens against Louisiana. For Matt Ray, Grant Ramey, Rob Lewis, I am Eric Kane. A major thank you, as always, to Exterior Home Solutions, who make this coverage possible. Free estimate. Go ahead and give them a call today, 865-524-5888. That is 865-524-5888. If you need anything done for your home, siding, roof, windows, whatever it can be, Exterior Home Solutions is the place for you. Guys, I appreciate it. We'll be back next week for another rendition of the Volquest Podcast right here at Volquest.com.